program is State Affairs. Yes, the line is open. You can call 080-309-18449. That is 080-309-18449. You can also leave your messages on X, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. And if you are on X, you can also repost. Let's repost on X. Let's repost. Let's see. Repost the stream. If you're on Facebook, please share. Let's take the message further. Leave your comment. I want to read from you, your reflections. Let me know what you are thinking. You can also call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Radio Man.
I greet you.
My name is Oladunjoye. I would like to talk based on what Malam Baba Ahmed said some moments ago. You see, I get to know that the incursion of the military destroyed the system of this nation. Because if they had allowed those people to go the way they were going, by now would have been all right. The military came, and thank God for the death of Muritala, he would have destroyed it more. And not that alone. The man who came in 1983 and said these ones should go to jail and the rest of it, I'm surprised. He came back to join the civilian. And so all through this period, we've been fumbling and wumbling, and it has not been the same. I'm glad that the situation as at now will probably, if we allow it to continue this way, we'll definitely get there. I was barely 3 years old when Nigeria gained independence. And the little, I didn't know anything, but I knew it was a funfair. So I hope we will be patient enough not to call the military. But calling the military is the worst thing that can happen to us. So I hope a nation like ours will be patient enough to wait and allow this period to go. Definitely it will go. We'll get it right. And I pray that God will help this nation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That's my contribution.
Thank you for calling the radio station. Thank you. Okay, let's take another call. Let me hear from you. What do you think? Dr. Bola Dauda will be talking about Ahmadu Bello soon. So let me know what you think. You can join the discourse. Abeza Chaso Bina, good morning. Hello?
Yeah, good morning. I can hear you.
Okay, good morning, Abeza Chaso Bina.
Yeah, my contribution is on family, It is good to begin a family with a sense of purpose, If you go through Awo's autobiography, there was a point where he complained as a child. He complained that his father was not buying him tools for farming. He said his father was a farmer, and other fathers were also farmers, so they were buying tools for their children. But Awo's father refused to buy for him, and it became a problem in the house. And Awo was complaining, "Why didn't you buy tools for me as other fathers are buying for their children?" And his father kept telling him, "I don't want you to join me in the farm, or that I want you to go to school first." He made that point clear to him. And if you go through the autobiography, he made it clear that what his father told him as a child really guided him throughout. when after his father's death, and even when things were difficult, he was making that effort to ensure that he fulfills his father's dream. So his father had a purpose. So if every family can have a purpose from the beginning, it will really help a lot. So there should be a purpose to begin a family, and not just give birth to children arbitrarily without plans on ground. So that's just my contribution this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abeze Chasobina. Thank you. Now let's bring in the guest again. That's Dr. Bola Dauda. We now look at the life of Ahmadu Bello.
State Affairs with Edmond Obilo is live. Stay tuned.
Let's come to Ahmadu Bello.
Okay.
You said in the book, Ahmadu Bello was born in 1910 into a Muslim royal family. He grew up in a Muslim community, went to a Muslim school, and imbibed the Fulani people's way of life. Consequently, Islamic teachings and Fulani traditions colored his outlook on life and his politics.
Yes.
He was 28 years old in 1948 when the new colonial governor, Sir John Macpherson, began to implement the 1946 Richard Constitution that effectively brought the northern and southern provinces and Lagos together under a unitary central government.
Yes.
You said Bello's blue blood and his commitment to carry on flying Usman Dan Fodio's jihad flag were the driving forces that shaped his public and private life.
Yes.
Are you saying Ahmadu Bello was a jihadist?
Well, it's a shion of jihadists, and the need to propagate Islam was called to him, and he did that. You could not be up to Kwara, or present-day Kwara, the Niger, Middle Belt, and so on. You could not be a leader if you didn't convert to Islam. And he did that. He really promoted Islam. He believed in it.
Did he also promote conquest?
I don't know how you will put that, but he remained, the North remained, if you put the North as personifying the Muslim North, remained at loggerhead with the thief in Benue State and the Christians in the Middle Belt.
He wanted a monolithic North?
Well, we can say that because even when the political party was formed, it was Northern People's Party.
Do you think his collaboration with Ladoke Akintola to cause the Western region crisis was a form of conquest?
It depends. It's easy to interpret or to put meaning to people's actions when they have left. But the issue was that there was crisis. Awolowo supported that Akintola because he was next to him to succeed him. But don't forget the rivalry between the Jebus and the Oyos and so on, and the Ibadan, which even still came up to the time of Oluloyo.
Yeah.
So there has always been crisis within the Yoruba community as a whole. But in terms of bringing it to politics, you don't have a situation in which the NPNC was very strong in Ibadan.
Yeah, Adelabu.
And Adelabu. And the issue of Akintola was that of wanting opportunists or so. Because the problem is interesting. You know, the first lady in today for Awolowo, when the Akintola became the premier, it was difficult to depose Awolowo's wife in Ibadan because she was based in Ibadan, was a big woman in Ibadan. So you have a situation in which rivalry between the first wives or the first ladies became a regional problem. And in politics, the killer instinct of Akintola was strong.
What do you mean by killer instinct?
Oh, one of the qualities of a good politician or a popular politician is to be able to get rid of your opponent either by whatever means necessary.
And Akintola was out to demystify Awolowo.
That is what led to probing Awolowo and so on. And you will see it today that if you got a succeeding governor who didn't share the same values with the one that has left, the first thing is to set up a probe.
Was Akintola fighting somebody that was philosophically stronger than him?
He was. If Awolowo didn't have principle, Akintola, if members of the action group didn't want Akintola to succeed Awolowo, but Awolowo said he's the next person, and he must be there on principle.
Did Akintola take into cognizance Awolowo's personal character before he decided to fight?
He would have done that, but you know, people make mistakes. For example, before going to any war, there are certain rules you must not break. One is you don't underrate your enemy. Two, you must know that you want to fight a just cause. And three, you must know that you can win. So we have the same thing playing out now in Putin going to Ukraine thinking that it's a small place, I can finish it within a short period of time. He underrated his enemy. So the same thing happened with Akintola. But one thing that many people never recognized was that apart from all the other issues, one thing that affected Akintola, which could only have been managed by Awolowo because of his knowledge of economy or so many other things, was that the price of cocoa fell at the time of Akintola, so there was no money for Akintola to run. So the economy was just as it is now in Nigeria today. We call it's a period when you don't throw away the water from your pipe. Mayomieko means that that water from the pipe is food. You don't throw it away. It was so bad.
He recognized the powers of Ahmadu Bello, didn't he?
Well, you can align with anybody that you know can help, can support your cause.
And Ahmadu Bello came in, and Awolowo was sent to prison.
Yes.
Is that conquest?
Well, you are using conquest in the literary form of you have a war and you defeat your enemy, or you have a desire to expand your territory. It wasn't about expansion of territory.
Remember, Ahmadu Bello was quoted to say that he would dip the Quran into the lagoon.
Yes.
How would you interpret that?
And that is missionary effort.
And it's take over Yoruba land.
Yes.
So that's what I'm asking. By sending Awolowo to prison, was it in preparation of taking over Yoruba land?
When you get an ally who was ready, you know, if you know the history of Ilorin, you will see that Afoja was a Yoruba person who betrayed the Alaafin, and in the end got the support of the Fulani, and then the Fulani got rid of him. So if you have an enemy and you believe that the problem of the North is only that of Awolowo, then you get somebody within the Yoruba group who was ready to support you, then you can go ahead.
And that was Akintola?
Akintola.
You said in the book, in a similar way, Ahmadu Bello was influenced by the writings of Abdullahi Danfodio,
Yes.
whose Islamic literature on jihad Bello used as a template
Yes.
to run the state and his private affairs.
Yes.
Thus, jihad literature turned Sir Ahmadu Bello into a conservative and a parochial defender of the Fulani Emirate and its traditions, into an advocate for the Islamic faith, and into the champion and voice of the faithful.
Yes.
So you can see the marked difference
Yes.
between Awolowo's worldview and Ahmadu Bello's worldview.
Yes.
Juxtapose this worldview. From that juxtaposition, perhaps it is clear why Awolowo could not see eye to eye with Ahmadu Bello.
It wasn't just a matter of seeing eye to eye. It's that you have a politician, and then you have, if you like, you have a priest or a missionary. So the issue was that of having Ahmadu Bello wanting to promote Islam or promote a religious state or a state run by religious precepts. Awolowo was a secular person who wanted to run the state as a political agenda or project. And this is where conflict rose. You see that the crisis we have in Nigeria last election was as a result of just simply choosing Muslim president and vice president candidate. So religion has always been an issue. Awolowo wanted a secular state.
Because I'm driving at something.
Go ahead. I don't know where you are driving, but I will be a good passenger.
Look at this. I have read part of it before. Bello's blue blood and his commitment to carry on flying Usman Dan Fodio's, that is his grandfather's, jihad flag were driving forces that shaped his public and private life. Ordinarily, there is nothing personal in heckling at and booing a politician in a multi-party political system.
No.
These are common ways of showing public disaffection.
Yes.
However, for the Saldana of Sokoto, who grew up in a culture in which traditional rulers and elders were revered, to be booed publicly for opposing the Action Group 1953 motion for Nigeria's independence by 1956, as when he led an entourage to northern delegates into Lagos, was a humiliating experience.
Yes.
This experience led to the Kanu riot of 1953.
Yes.
Southerners were killed in their numbers.
Yes.
Was there any need bringing the North and the South together?
This is the colonial heritage that we had. When you look at India with Buddhism and other traditional faith there, and you look at the breakaway Pakistan, which was strictly Islam, and then the breakaway of Bangladesh from Pakistan, you will see the, if you like, you can call it diabolic, or you can call it a crafted arrangement not to have. Don't forget that the North and the South were brought together because the North was bankrupt by Lugard. So all along, it has been an inconvenient marriage, and it will remain so until we have people who are ready to do the needful.
What's the needful?
You will have to, what Nkrumah did in Ghana was that the North-South in Ghana, Ashanti and the Fanti, was the same thing you have. Northern Ghana was Muslim, Islam, predominantly. Southern was Christian. And what he did was that anybody, free education up to university for the Northerners. So which means that Nigeria would have been a different story if we continued when in 1976 they introduced UPE, Universal Primary Education. It partially bridged the gap between the northern Nigeria and south within 6 years. If they have continued that to secondary and university, what we'll be talking about today will be different. So that's the sort of the needful, deliberate policy and programs to bring up the North.
Dr. Dauda, but you opposed federal character. Is federal character not a deliberate plan to incorporate the North?
In a dubious way.
Because you talked about, the advantage that is given to northern candidates in federal schools.
Yeah.
Is that advantage not a way to incorporate the North?
No. You would say, this is, you remember our if you like to call it argument or discussion last on Wednesday, relating to using logic to explain things. If you say, like they did then, they gave money for every child to go to school in Nigeria in 1976, the military. If they continue that is different from giving you a situation in which you say, okay, when we have a federal university, the cut-off point for the people in the North will be 40%, and for the educationally advanced Lagos, it will be 80%. That's different from saying you want to make sure that every child in northern Nigeria goes to school. It's different from saying anybody should be pampered or should be the advantage or at the disadvantage of others to get federal jobs. Let me share with you the implication of that federal character.
Okay.
They knew that they didn't have enough representation at federal level. So let's say you graduated with me same year, 1974. You are from the North, I'm from the South. I joined the federal service on level 08. You joined the Kano civil service on level 08. 5 years later, you became a permanent secretary in Kano, and you transferred to federal service. They put you on level 17. I'm still on level 10. And in this case, we both came from Kano.
Yeah.
But I joined directly federal service, and we were classmates from the same disadvantaged Kano state. And I'm still at level 10 with federal service by normal promotion 5 years later. And you are now permanent secretary from Kano, transferred to now become permanent secretary in the federal, in which I'm also a staff. That is the sort of reality. This is not anecdote or guessing. It's documented by those who have transferred.
State Affairs with Ahmadu Bello is live. Stay tuned.
In this discourse today, Dr. Bola Dauda is the lecturer breaking down the ideas in his book entitled Decolonizing Nigeria, 1945 to 1960, Politics, Power and Personalities. It is a book written by two authors, Bola Dauda and Professor Toyin Falola. It's a big book. I recommend this book to you. You can get this book on Udara Bookstore. It's a rich book on politics, power and personalities of the men who defined Nigeria's politics. Are you aiming for political leadership? What books are you reading? If you have a dream or a vision of the future, you should read this book. If you want to be among those capable of redefining the political and economic structures of Nigeria, you should read this book. Not just reading the book, applying some of the ideas in the book. You might disagree with some, but this is a deep and rich resource for students of history, politics, and power. And I have read and reread the book. And now we are bringing the book to the front burner to break it down. I recommend another book to you, Understanding Modern Nigeria, written by Professor Toyin Falola. Toyin Falola and Dr. Dauda co-wrote the Decolonizing Nigeria. But Falola wrote this alone. You can see the book. This is on udarabooks.com. Read this book. Get this book and uplift yourself to the height of visionary thinking. You know, the reading of this book, of these books, will open your mind. These books are also inspiring. Now, while I was reading Decolonizing Nigeria, I could see some of the errors that were made in the past. And I said, okay, we can correct these errors. From the correction, we can lift our people out of poverty. We can create wealth for the people. That's inspiring. From reading this book, I can see the power of the minds of Africans. To have written this kind of books, the authors have quality minds, and I take inspiration from their thoughts. It makes me a better person. Understanding Modern Nigeria, Ethnicity, Democracy and Development by Toyin Falola is another classic. Get your copy on udarabooks.com. Another book I am recommending to you is this one written by Jerome Udoji under Three Masters. Memoirs of an African Administrator. Some of the points we have raised in this discourse, Jerome Udoji raised them in this book. Remember the Udoji reports of the 1970s? If you are a student of public administration, politics, you will want to know who this man is. You know, in this book, Udoji looked at the problems connected with the transfer of power, as well as those inherent in the exercise of power by Nigerians, past, present, and future. Having been at the center of Nigeria's evolving political adventure, he profiles his type of political arrangement, which he feels is ideal for Nigeria. I'm recommending these books to you. Get your copy on udarabooks.com or through our WhatsApp number. So you are a public administrator. You worked in the civil service.
Yes.
You remember Udoji?
Yes.
What can you say about him?
Well, you have said it all. You know, by the time of the coup in 1966, we had, this is part of the colonial heritage that, you know, decolonizing Nigeria created. the most powerful civil servants, Udoji, Adebo, and I think it's Akil Ali, I don't remember the name now, from the north, they went to head the regional civil services. So Udoji was in that category. He was one of the earliest civil servants in Nigeria that, when the Nigerianization came up, became powerful. But instead of having them at the center, they were taken to their regions. And that is part of what created the problem of implementing federalism and unitary later. When the military wanted unitary, they wanted to run Nigeria as a military unit.
As a people with one song, with one voice, we're a nation undivided and poised. We will take a stand and build our land in faith to defend what is ours. Here we are as a people with one heart for one cause. We're determined to rebuild and restore. Where freedom reigns and truth prevails. Our land where there's hope for us all. Our land where there's hope for us all.
Timidakolo there. The program is State Affairs on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. All the recommended books, you can get them by chatting with me on WhatsApp. Just order them on my WhatsApp number 080 18449. That is 080 18449. Let me recommend more books to you. Search for this book, A Measure of Grace, the autobiography of Akin Maboguje, A Measure of Grace. In that book, Maboguje, that renowned geographer of blessed memory, talked eloquently about Obafemi Awolowo. I also recommend this book to you, Ibadan, The Penkelemesi Years, a book written by Wole Soyinka. Ibadan, The Penkelemesi Years. It takes you back into time. The Penkelemesi years. When you talk about Penkelemesi, you remember Adegoke Adelabu, that Ibadan politician. So if you read that Soyinka's book, you are in for beauty. Since we are talking about independence, I also recommend this book to you, Legacy of the British Empire. Oh, A History of the British Empire by Caroline Erkins. Legacy of the British Empire. A History of the British Empire by Caroline Erkins. Okay, I have a caller here. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Awolowo. I'm calling from Ibadan.
Okay, can you come closer to your phone?
Okay, sir.
All right, you are clearer now. So make your point.
Okay, what point I want to make is based on the fact that we're not men of history again. We don't study, we don't go back and learn about history. So that affects most of us. So we don't know anything, and mostly it even boils down to the youth. We don't read, so we don't know about history. So when you are given about these books to read about, it's not more only about books to read about, but we don't have people that to read about it. So when they read about it, they don't understand what they are reading about. That's why when people come out on the social medias and things like that to talk about things, because they don't understand history. And that's why I like today's state affairs. I was talking about we reading books and very to put it in applications about what we read. Because when we understand history, understand what the likes of Awolowo, our past leaders. Because I think I was reading a book about Awolowo, I think The Voice of Courage. And when he was talking about those things, they were things that impact in various aspects of our lives. So we should just be men of history. That's what I want to just say.
Thank you. Thank you for calling the radio station. Yes, he has advised you to be a person of history. You know, you can read and still play. So I've told you about the last book I recommended is this one entitled Legacy of the British Empire, A History of the British Empire by Caroline Erkins. Another book you should read is this one entitled Democracy and Nigeria's Fourth Republic, Governance, Political Economy, and Party Politics, 1999 to 2023. It is talking about now. Democracy and Nigeria's Fourth Republic, Governance, Political Economy, and Party Politics, 1999 to 2023. It's a book edited by Professor Wale Adebanwi. It's a beauty. Reading opens the mind. Reading grows the spirit. Reading inspires you for progress. Reading makes you innovative. Reading can make you rich if you don't understand. Reading opens your mind to ideas. Don't understate the power of reading, the power of books. Have you asked why, despite the age of internet, that hard books have refused to disappear? It's because of the power of reading. E-books are also beautiful. Now let's talk about Nnamdi Azikiwe. Nnamdi Azikiwe is a founder of modern Nigeria. His politics was driven by a nationalistic fervor that was distracted by ethnic politics. Having studied journalism and politics at Lincoln University, United States, Azikiwe proceeded to Ghana to test his journalism skills before returning to Nigeria in 1937 to join the Nigerian youth movement. When the center could not hold in Nigerian youth movement due to internal wrangling involving him, Awolowo, Ernest Ikoli, and Ayo Akinsoya and others, he left the group and joined others to form the Igbo State Union in 1943. He also joined the National Convention of Nigeria and Cameroon, NCNC, on the 26th of August, 1944. Herbert Macaulay, the father of Nigerian nationalism, was the president of NCNC, and Azikiwe was the general secretary. Azikiwe became the leader of the party at the death of Macaulay. In 1954, Zik became the premier of the Eastern region. Zik's return to Nigeria saw the growth of journalism against colonial rule. His newspapers, the West African Pilot and the Comment, dominated the politics of the time, until papers like Awolowo's Tribune and Daily Times came to rival their influences. He is called the Zik of Africa. The Zikist movement was a testimony of the influence he made. But did he betray the Zikist? Bola Dauda is on State Affairs. He's the author of Decolonizing Nigeria. Guinea Alex says, I don't believe that Nnamdi didn't have a plan, as the guest said, but the colonial masters did not favor him because of their interest in the North. You know, I'm a student of Kenyan and Tanzania politics.
Okay.
There's also the ethnic question in Kenya.
Yes.
But the point I'm making, Dr. Dauda, is that the men who led the fight for independence
Yes.
got power.
Yes.
Yes, there was the Mau Mau rebellion.
Yes.
But the men who led the fight for independence. Yes. It's about Azikiwe. We are coming to Zik now.
Okay.
We've talked about Ahmadu Bello.
Yes.
We've talked about Awolowo.
Yes.
We'll come to Zik. Then we'll now look at three of them together.
Thank you.
You said here he might also have won the independence of Nigeria, and since he was in an unrivaled position from 1946 to 1952, he might have emerged as the head of a united Nigerian state. Yes. Such a triumph would have availed him the opportunity to fully implement a unitary government with a strong center.
Yes.
Is it that you wanted Azikiwe to operate a unitary system, or what?
No, as a scholar, I didn't have any agenda and I didn't have any personality in mind. What I was projecting there, or what we were projecting there, was basically that when Azikiwe emerged from the youth movement and Sikhi's movement, the young ones, named the group after him. If he had followed the movement, the Sikhi's movement, then it would have been very easy for him to unite Nigeria and to implement his programs. It then happened that when Nrosi became the head of state, it was too late to introduce unitary, because I said he would have been able to do it because it was a clean slate. There hasn't been any agenda for regions. So he would have just, and the others were just boys. Ahmadu and Awolowo, they were just boys.
So should we say that Nnamdi Azikiwe could have been one of those who advised Ironsi to come with that unification decree?
I don't have documents to support it, but there is enough mitigating circumstances to come to that conclusion.
And it backfired?
Of course. Because it was too late. 1966, you are talking of 16 years after that policy should have been implemented. If it was in 1951, it would have been a different story because there was no region in 1951. All we had was Richard's constitution, which started the unitary by merging the two. So all we needed in 1946 was someone like Azikiwe to come up and say, this is the way we want to run Nigeria. That's what Nkrumah did in Ghana.
At that time, he was the only shining star.
There was no competition.
No rival.
Awolowo was a student, 1946.
In his autobiography, you wrote in this book that Nnamdi Azikiwe recalled that he was born into a Christian family in Zungeru in northern Nigeria in 1904.
Yes.
He spent some time in the north, and between 1911 and 1921, for his primary and secondary education, for a job as a pupil teacher, and for teacher training, he crisscrossed from Onitsha in the east, through Lagos in the west, back to Oraifite in the east, and off to Calabar in the southeast,
Yes.
and back to Methodist High School in Lagos. Bola Dauda and Tony Falola in the book said before the age of 17, Azikiwe had attended many schools, and before traveling to the United States for his university education, at the age of 21, he worked as a backup clerk with the Treasury Department in Lagos, and even enlisted in the police force of the former Gold Coast. Growing up living in military barracks and moving around with his father, who was in the military, Azikiwe developed a cosmopolitan worldview and a footloose barracks life of a soldier's child that prepared him for ruggedness and restlessness in his adulthood. He also moved around in the United States until he returned to continue his sojourn in West Africa at the age of 30. This is history, as you can see. So he's moving around.
Yes.
Defined his worldview.
Yes.
He had a different social upbringing.
Yes.
From Awu,
Yes.
from Ahmadu Bello.
Yes.
And that reflected in his politics, right?
It did.
How?
It was more compounded by being in the United States of America and seeing the way politics was played there. So, and the American politics is based on personality. So you don't need a constituency. And that is what his personality was, what he wanted to sell in a situation that was British, that was parochial, that was based on cleavages, and that was based on parliamentary system. So he did not. He had knowledge and personality that did not fit the Nigeria he wanted to govern. And the peak of his crisis was when he lost the Lagos election and did not become part of the Legislative Council because the parliamentary system was there. You need to win election to be part of this government. And so he could not control his party, he could not manage the people, and there was no need to control party in America because they only come around for election, not because, they want to govern based on the party.
So no wonder it was more about the Zik personality.
It was Zik personality.
No wonder he was more nationalist.
You can say that, or more unitary.
More unitary. He was at home with every part of the country.
At home. because that was what it would have been if he were in America, or if the politics he was playing was American politics. You remember I mentioned that Obama contested after living in a place for 3 years. Can you imagine that you have been in Ibadan now for maybe 10 or so years? Can you contest election for the local government? So that was not necessary in America. And in Britain, because of their own social culture too, if the chances that your party will win, you can leave Ibadan and go to Kano and contest under your party. In other words, you can leave London and go and contest under Conservative Party in Scotland.
So that you find your way into parliament.
To parliament.
You said here that also Marcus Garvey and Dr. J.E.K. Agnew inspired Nnamdi Azikiwe to adopt their style of firebrand journalism in confronting imperialism and racism.
Yes.
He did that with the West African pilot.
He did that, and successfully during the 1945 general strike, national strike. He did that. But that was possible for a newspaper to promote a union. It's different when you now want to govern without a constituency.
You said in the book that the American Black Liberation Movement and its leading lights turned Nnamdi Azikiwe into a rhetorical idealist and a vanguardist against man's inhumanity to man, who lacked concrete plans and strategies to turn ideas into practical improvements for the human condition. I don't get that point.
Take, for example, the issue of basic education, the primary education. You can say that getting the people educated at primary level is basic. Getting the health facility is basic. When Awolowo was promoting that in the West, Azikiwe saw it as an attempt to buy votes. How do you bring in all your philosophy and all your ideas if you are not translating it to what mattered to people? That was his crisis or his problem as a politician. As a writer, it's different. You can sit and write and project things. But when it comes to, is it practicable? Is it something that anybody can put into practice? He had no plan. So when things got worse, he said, I'll go back to my forest. He left west for the east. Somebody who had a plan would not just do that. There was no political philosophy or ideology to direct him apart from that he wanted one Africa.
But here, at some point, you made reference to Awolowo's democratic socialism, Azikiwe's democratic pragmatism.
Yes.
Is that not an ideal that he stood for?
If he has been able to put it into use, he believed that Africa should be just one nation, in which Nigeria will just be like a local government. That's what Pan-Africanism was all about.
Was that not what Nkrumah wanted?
That's what Nkrumah wanted, but Nkrumah has a constituency.
But
stage.
But I thought, was Awolowo not closer to Nkrumah than Zik?
Because they were both politicians.
Because I'm looking,
Zik was closer to Gafe, Agri, and all the other fighters for black liberation.
was he truly a Pan-Africanist in the substance of Nkrumah?
He has Ghana in his hand. He was ready to go to jail. He was sent to jail. His party won. He became the head of state. And he could still go ahead and be promoting Ghana and promoting Africa.
You know, when I think of leaders of pre-independence and post-independent African state, I'm asking, why was Nigeria's case different? In Tanzania, it was clear it was going to be Julius Nyerere.
Yes.
In Senegal, there was Leopold Senghor.
Yes.
There was Sokoto in Guinea.
Yes.
Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana.
Yes.
In Nigeria, we knew there was a very popular Nnamdi Azikiwe, popular in Africa.
Yes.
Yet he could not govern.
Because he didn't have the plan. He wasn't a politician. You needed a skill as a politician to grab power.
In Kenya, the same men who fought for independence grabbed power.
Yes, they did, but Kenya was not Nigeria. It's not the same 200 plus ethnic group.
Tafawa Balewa did not really fight for independence.
He didn't have to. He was given by the British.
Awolowo and Zik
They have
fought for
already
it.
declared and called him to form government before they finished counting the votes in 1959.
Why did they do that to us?
That's what they needed. Divide and rule. It's a principle that worked. That's what Gowon did too. By creating the states and divide and rule, he was able to bring Nigeria together.
Kenyatta took over leadership in
Yes.
Kenya.
Yes.
Even Patrice Lumumba took over leadership in the Congo,
Yes.
though he was betrayed.
Yes.
In Nigeria, Houphouët Boigny took over leadership in Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes.
Why was Nigeria different?
That is why I cried that Azikiwe missed the opportunities.
Okay, if Azikiwe missed the opportunity, why not consider Awolowo?
No, it's not possible. Awolowo, look at how they did it. North was more landmass and population that is documented as population of Nigeria, gave North 54%. He didn't have Tafawa Balewa, Ahmadu Bello, they didn't have to fight to rule Nigeria. And if you look at it, at Awolowo, they got together with the North to carve Midwest out of Western region. So how can you expect someone that had no, you are the leader of an orchestra without people to support you?
State Affairs with Ahmadu Bello is live. Stay tuned.
I'm a student of Kenyan and Tanzania politics.
Okay.
There's also the ethnic question in Kenya.
Yes.
But the point I'm making, Dr. Dauda, is that the men who led the fight for independence
Yes.
got power.
Yes.
Yes, there was the Mau Mau rebellion.
Yes.
But the men who led the fight for independence
Yes.
in Kenya
Yes.
got power.
Yes.
Kenyatta became the prime minister.
Yes.
In Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe became the prime minister.
Yes.
In Nigeria, the men who led the fight for independence did not get power.
You see, I enjoyed studying this history. There was nothing for Britain to want to grab from Mugabe, Zimbabwe, up to the time he died. So, but Nigeria was different. We have all the resources. They've discovered the oil before they left. They knew we have all the resources they needed. So there is need to create enough crisis for us. But if Azikiwe has taken over in 1951, it will have been a different story. He was just a failure when it came to paying the price for pushing his ideas through. That was the problem that, as a political scientist or social scientist, can see with Dr. Azikiwe. If he was a lecturer, great. He could sell his idea. If he remained a journalist, that was great. He could do things. But when it came into being a politician with certain ideas and wanting to implement that idea, and that idea called for a price, and he was not ready to pay the price, that was the problem. He did not understand the British politics. He understood the American politics. If Nigeria was under the American system, he would have been a success because it would be basic on his personality and his character. But he was operating a British system with American resources in terms of brain and ideas and so on. Don't forget that the British were comfortable with Ahmadu Bello. Awolowo was comfortable with parliamentary system because he was in Britain for about 5 years and saw how it played out. He went there during the Second World War, and Winston Churchill was called in, to become the war minister, the prime minister. And he knew how Winston Churchill played the game and won the Second World War. But the British people rejected Winston Churchill after the war. And it was possible for Awolowo to understand that. But for Azikiwe, he did not know what it meant to lose election. He did not know what it meant to be a political leader. If you want to appreciate what happened to Azikiwe, imagine that Tinubu lost his position, his seat. Let's say he was representing Lagos in the parliament and lost his seat, and therefore as leader of action of APC could not be part of the government. That was what happened to Azikiwe. He could not even manage the party, which is what is happening to PDP now, that the leaders of PDP could not manage the crisis in the PDP. That was what befell Azikiwe. The British parliamentary system was okay for Awolowo and Ahmadu Bello, but it was not okay for Azikiwe, who understood the American presidential system.
Dr. Bola Daoud, you and your co-author quoted copiously from this book.
Yes.
By Bola Ige.
Yes.
This book by Bola Ige, People, Politics and Politicians of Nigeria, 1940 to 1979. The authors of Decolonizing Nigeria quoted from this book on page 342 of your book.
Yes.
You said Bola Ige noted that 1945 to 1948 were years of great political events in Nigeria.
Yes.
In 1946, the great Herbert Macaulay died, leaving a vacuum in leadership.
Yes.
There was no Nigerian who could claim to be more nationalistic than Nnamdi Azikiwe. There was nobody who could say that he had committed his own resources for the anti-colonial struggle more than Azikiwe.
None.
A handsome and charming man who had been schooled in Lagos, Onitsha, and Calabar, Azikiwe spoke two of the three main Nigerian languages,
Yes.
Igbo and Yoruba,
Yes.
and he spoke them well. And he could use the fact of his birth in Zungeru in 1904 in the northern provinces to his own advantage.
Yes.
Partly because he knew how to use media skillfully to build up his... You see, that is it. right? Bola Dauda there. Next week, I'll play you what Bolaige wrote about Azikiwe in his book. Next week, I'll play you that part. We're moving towards that part. But we'll have to leave it at this point. Next week is another time. The next program is Ijoba Ibile with Abiodun Adewale. I am Edmondo Bello. Join me next week. The history will get deeper next week. Stay cool.
In the global village of conflicting ideologies and complexities, understanding systems and schemes through awareness and social reconstruction becomes expedient.
They never told you how you offended them?
I'm not on trial, so I can't go before.
Join the radio man Edmondo Bello on state affairs for local and international politics, security, extensive economic analysis, interviews, and world power play.
Nigerians must choose the path they want to follow. Follow the same looters and sponsors of violence who control the political structures or encourage the formation of a new leadership team.
Be a global citizen and join the radio revolution on State Affairs. State Affairs with Edmond Obilo. Radio just got deeper.